First question, we'll start with Aaron Portzline. Go ahead, Aaron.
Morning, Glenn. Morning, John. I wonder at this point of the season, John, how much you're coaching X's and O's and how much you're preaching morale, just in terms of keeping guys up at a time when you're not getting the results that you need.
Yeah, I think it's a big part of it. I think our guys have handled themselves well through a very trying year, through a very inconsistent year. For the most part, they come to work, they do their work. I don't think we're going to have a problem with that. We're professionals. This is our job. Each and every day you get up, you dust yourself off, and you get to work.
John, when you decide to make a young player a healthy scratch, is it purely about how he's performing right then, or do you take into account the rattling to confidence that can have in the aftermath of that, or is it just a matter of you've got to take care of this now?
Well, all situations. I mean, benching a player, I mean, is the last thing I want to do with a player. It's a hard question to answer because it depends on the situation, some of the things that have gone on.
Yeah.
When you take a player out of the lineup, that's an accumulation of, it could be weeks of things. It could be a week, it could be 5 games, it could be 3 games. It could be just a discipline of something that went in the locker room. There's so many different things that come into play when you take an athlete out of the lineup. So it's a hard question to answer because it's a different situation all the time. But I'll tell you that is a part of my job that I always am very conscious about everything when it comes to that, the well-being of the player. But that doesn't change. It doesn't change who you are, the stature of the player. Sometimes it has to do with just building a culture within a locker room too. So Ports, we could talk about this all day long because there's no one thing. It just depends on which situation we're talking about, which player we're talking about.
Yeah. So when Jack comes back into the lineup on Sunday, are you looking at specific aspects of his game to see if there's a difference, or is it just an overall how he's performing?
I'm evaluating Jack every day in practice and games, and and the evaluation. It's not like I'm looking to find things wrong so I can sit them, but through an accumulation of things, if that's what I think needs to be done, that will be done. My whole being, because I think everybody gets crazy with these benchings and they think it's a personal thing, or not playing a player. You guys call them benching. Sometimes I just don't play a player in a game for a few minutes and you think he's benched. I have 23 people to worry about in the locker room, and especially this year, I think it's a locker room that has a little bit to learn and grow as far as reacquiring a culture, a standard of all things. So it's a constant evaluation of not just Jack but all our players, and that's a huge part of my job, and I take it very seriously. And you guys run with it, but it's never personal. It's what I'm trying to do, what I can do, what's best for that player at that particular time. And he may not like it, but in the end goal, I want to make him the best person, the best player I possibly can when I'm dealing with him.
And I don't think anyone has said that any of these are personal, but it's different when a line A or a Domi sits for a few shifts versus a fourth line guy in a game you're behind. You know what I'm saying? Or it's different when you scratch Roslovic as opposed to a guy that's been in and out of the lineup.
But why? Well, a guy that's in and out of the lineup. Well, a guy that's in and out of the lineup hasn't solidified himself in the lineup. I get that, but see, I'm not sure. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but I am not going to defer and turn the other way because it's what's considered maybe a top 6 forward. If I deem that something needs to change and maybe the player isn't listening. I'm not saying this is about Jack, but in a general term, a player just isn't listening because we kept on going to him last week and the week before and that game. And then we have to try to make them, get their attention. And remember, when you're coaching some of your top players, you're coaching your team. And this is why we do everything up front in person with everybody in front of the locker room, is because you're coaching the rest of the guys too. And that third line guy is saying, man, he's treating that guy in this situation just like he would treat me. Even though I don't get 20 minutes and I only get 8, he's still treating him the same way I was treated in this situation. Yeah. That's very, very important to develop the right locker room and the culture. I will never move away from that. In today's game, I know it gets a little crazy and it gets a little noteworthy that this guy sat or he missed some ice time. That is non-negotiable to me when I am trying to develop the right culture in a locker room. And we don't have the culture we need to have here right now. We haven't. And I think that's a big part of my job as we've lost that through changes and personnel changes and all of that. It's a fascinating subject and it's something I take very seriously.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we'll go to Dave Metzel. Go ahead, Dave.
Thanks, Glenn. Good morning, John. John, we just watched Patrick was working out here in the ice house probably for a half hour on his own. Just wonder if you could comment on the work he is putting in to try to be a better player for you and to try to be more impactful in his role.
Well, that's a good sign. It's the first time he's been out there today, I think, with Kenny. I know we talked to Kenny after the trip. That's a good sign for a player that's been struggling a bit. He's trying to help himself. I think that's very important. And, Patty cares. And he's trying to get his game in order. I think that's great stuff as far as him going to Kenny after the trip and getting some work in here.
And I think it was the first Florida game. You said that was maybe his best game since he's been in Columbus. That work has to feed into that, right? He's obviously working to be the best player he can be.
Well, that game there, he was totally engaged, and you could see it right from the first shift, totally engaged. And you know what? He didn't get 1 goal or 1 assist, but he was a huge part of what that line was because he was totally engaged. And you can see what he can do for himself and for this team when he's engaged like that. And and me as a coach, you see it and you want more of it. And it's been inconsistent, but he when he's engaged, he is one hell of a player.
Thanks, John.
Okay. Next, we'll go to Brian Hedger. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, John. In this odd season that you guys are in with COVID and all this other stuff, I mean, you guys have that taxi squad there as well. That was put in this year. What's that been like for you guys as coaches and players and everything, just trying to deal with? I mean, Zach Dalpe last week called it kind of like limbo, between the AHL and the NHL. You're kind of half in and half out. Is that a challenge to development, for young guys if they're on there?
Yeah, it is. Well, although in Cleveland, they're just not. I'm not sure how many games they've played because there's been some problems down there in getting some games played. But this is a running conversation that I've had with Josh and Yarmo all year long as far as who do we want to keep here that's not going to get any games because they're on the taxi squad right now and may not play for a couple of weeks versus putting them down there and playing and bringing someone else up here. Who's testing down there? So if we do call someone up, are they able to play or do they have to test for 3 days or whatever the protocol is? I've never spoken to Josh Flynn more in my life than this year as far as going over taxi and all that, who's available, were they testing down there, can they drive here and play, or there's so many different things that come onto it. So it's been interesting, but it's been hard for those taxi guys to, and this is why I'm trying to practice as much as a big group as I can, because those poor souls have been for a while practice 4 or 5 guys each day, And really, you don't get much out of that. So we've tried to enlarge our group, make them feel part of our group, at least go into our regular practice when we do practice and the little that we practice. So it's been crazy. It's been different.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I know, you know, Liam goes on there yesterday with a guy. I mean, he's 21 years old. I mean, is that part of the decision where you're looking at it going, well, we'd like this guy to play, but you know, maybe we want him to work out with Kenny too as well. I mean, is that part of the
Yeah, I don't, you know, Kenny's one of the best in the business, but we don't want our guys. We want our guys to play games.
Okay.
But we have to, and there's a regulation. I think the regulation is you have to have 4 players plus a goalie on your taxi.
Yeah.
I think that's the rule. So you got to keep guys here no matter what. Even if you want them to play in Cleveland, you have to keep some here. So I think Josh and Yarmouth have done a really good job in keeping me abreast. I get a sheet every day from Josh as far as who's taxi, who's regular, and you know. Well, how about, you know, it's just, yeah. It's been interesting, but all teams go through it. So it is what it is right now this year.
Yeah. And lastly on that, you know, you guys brought Grigorenko off the taxi and played him in Florida. What did you think of his? That was his first game in like 19, I think.
Yeah, I liked his game. I thought he was one of our better players. I thought him and Jack had a little chemistry there, and they'll probably play together tonight. And I'm not sure who I'll have on the wing, but they had some chemistry. And I thought Gregor made some really nice little plays in tight in a 5, 7, 8 feet area. He made some nice plays. I thought he played well. In fact, I took Robbie off of Patty and Max's line, tried Gregor there. I just didn't see anything going on. I tried to give him an opportunity there, but I think him and Jack will be paired up tonight because I thought they had some chemistry, and I'm not sure what the wing's going to be.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we'll go to Mark Scheid. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Glenn. Good morning, John. I guess just on the lineup, what changes are you making, and who's the starting goalie?
Starting goalie is Corpy, and Dolps will come in with Nasher out.
Foodie.
Okay.
Foodie.
What's that?
Foodie.
Foodie, you mean for Foodie?
What's
Is
Foodie?
Foodie's on the taxi squad?
Oh, Foodie will be in.
Okay. And I guess just coming off of that last Florida game, the neutral zone turnovers were a huge deal. Do you see that as being the biggest need for improvement going into tonight's game?
No. When you're 14, whatever the hell we are, there's a lot of things that need to improve. I just thought we beat ourselves in Florida a number of times. I mean, they score 3 goals to go up 3-0, 3 goals on 3 turnovers. We self-inflict that. I thought Corpy made some good saves, but then we're right there 1-0, and but the first 3 goals, 3 turnovers by us, really unmolested, and just turnovers cost us 3 goals, and we just can't go about the business that way in the neutral zone. If we don't have a play, we have to make sure we get it by them and make them, because our forechecking been much better. We have developed on an average of probably prior to that Florida game, the last Florida game, probably 13, 14 forechecking chances. So we just can't get stubborn in the neutral zone, and it cost us dearly in that second Florida game.
Okay, we got time for one more. We'll go to Jeff Svoboda. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Torts. And you've said a couple of times today that the culture is just not quite where it needs to be right now in the locker room. And culture has been so much of what this team is kind of built on over the last 4 to 5 years. Probably a tough question, but just how tough is it to keep a finger on that? Is it ebbs and flows with new guys coming in and stuff like that? And just how frustrating is it that that's something that you're kind of working on right now?
Yeah, that's my job. That's my job, to keep my thumb on that. I spend most of my thinking coaching. That is my coaching, where Lars and Shazi are doing a lot of the X's and O's. So that's my job, and a big part of my job. And it just, culture, accountability, like I say, all those great words you hear, it's hard. And we're going to continue trying. We've been trying all year long. We're going to continue trying. It's hard when you can't have those guys feel good about what's going on when you're losing as much as we have lost this year. That affects it. That affects the acceptance sometimes of what we need to do here. But I do think we have a number of players on our squad right now that need to learn how to practice better, how to present themselves better, and what the expectations are in critical times in games and situational play. I think that's a big part of developing a room, and we spent a number of years doing it. We kept on going, and I'm really proud of the room, how it's handled itself. We've knee-jerked a little bit this year. We've been very inconsistent that way, and that's on us. That's on me. That's a big part of my job.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Torts.